What if AI really took over office work for 30 days and the result was not chaos but a quiet power shift that made thousands of jobs look optional? Not a distant future, not a sci-fi collapse. A country wakes up, freezes wages, hiring, and most routine office tasks, and suddenly the entire system starts revealing who actually runs the economy. The scary part is that the first problems are not dramatic explosions. If AI can handle invoices, payroll, customer support, scheduling, reporting, and basic admin faster than people, then the real question is not whether productivity rises. The real question is who gains control when human work stops being the bottleneck. In this scenario, money still exists, companies still exist, and salaries still exist, but the meaning of work changes overnight. Keep watching because the first 72 hours are where the whole structure starts to bend. And as this unfolds, pay attention to the small shifts because the biggest changes usually start where nobody is looking. The first 72 hours would not look like a robot takeover, they would look like efficiency. Payroll gets processed on time, customer emails are answered instantly, meetings get shorter, reports arrive cleaner than usual. On paper, everything seems better, but inside the company, people begin to realize that the familiar backbone of office life is disappearing one task at a time. This is where the winners start separating from everyone else. Large companies adapt first because they already have technical teams, larger data sets, and the cash to absorb mistakes. Small firms can copy the tools, but they cannot copy the infrastructure. That gap matters. When AI becomes the main engine of office labor, scale stops being just an advantage and starts becoming a shield. The big players automate faster, learn faster, and cut costs faster. If this already sounds bigger than a normal tech story, it is. This is why the channel focuses on these scenarios instead of generic headlines. The real danger is not just job loss. It is the decision bottleneck that appears after the automation looks successful. Because AI does not erase responsibility, it concentrates it. The model can sort, flag, rank, summarize, and recommend, but when something goes wrong, a human still has to sign off. That means millions of small workers can disappear from the process, while a much smaller group of supervisors, engineers, and executives becomes responsible for far more than before. Then the labor market starts to change in a way that feels gradual until it becomes irreversible. The first casualties are the entry-level pathways that used to train the next generation of workers. Internships, junior analyst roles, assistant jobs, basic admin positions, and simple coordination tasks begin to shrink. On the surface, firms call it optimization. In reality, they are breaking the ladder that taught people how to become managers, specialists, and decision-makers later on. And if you are watching this thinking this is only about big corporations, that is exactly the mistake. The first wave always starts at the top, but the pressure reaches everyone. The next stage is where the story stops being about efficiency and starts being about power. Because if AI becomes the operating layer for office labor, then whoever controls the models, the data, and the compute does not just control a tool. They control access to productivity itself. That gives enormous leverage to the companies sitting at the center of the system. It also changes the balance between countries. And that leads to the final question, which is the hardest one to answer honestly. Does AI spread wealth through productivity, or does it concentrate power so tightly that the gains never reach most people? The optimistic version of this story says companies become more efficient, prices fall, boring work disappears, and humans move into higher value roles that require creativity, judgment, and trust. That version is possible. So if a country tried to run the economy on AI-managed labor for 30 days, the first surprise would not be chaos. It would be calm, too much calm. The reports would look cleaner, the approvals would move faster, and the companies would announce gains in productivity. But underneath that calm, the labor ladder would begin to crack, the decision chain would narrow, and the real centers of power would become easier to identify. That is the lesson hiding inside this scenario. If you want more scenarios like this, subscribe and follow the channel because the next one may change how you think about money, jobs, or power in a single hour. Like the video if this breakdown opened your eyes, and leave a comment with the one sector you think AI would hit first in your country. Because once you see the economy as a system of control, the next question is never just what can be automated. The real question is who ends up holding the controls.